But it is central to the Christian faith to believe that God can give us accurate information about what he is going to do in this world. And if he couldn't, what hope do we have? What hope would we have? So he says to these gods, he says, all right, tell us what's going to happen in the future. And they sit there silently. I don't remember how many years ago it was when I finally slowed down enough, and maybe that's something we all need to do, slowed down enough in my reading. And of course, I will admit, as an apologist, I read sections like this, and there's stuff running in the background. I'm thinking about how particular, especially Mormon apologists respond to this and respond to that. That's always going on in the background. We all have our things that we're dealing with, I suppose. But I finally slowed down enough to realize that there's two elements to the challenge in verse 22. Yes, tell us the future. That's repeated twice. But then there's something else. He says, as for the former things, as for the things that took place in the past, tell us what they were, and then do it in such a way that we may understand their outcome. I want you to think about this for a moment, because this may sound extremely speculative or, we're getting into some heady stuff here. Let me tell you something. It is this kind of divine biblical revelation that I stood firmly on as a hospital chaplain in many a death room and a CCU. Because honestly, folks, what you believe about God's sovereignty, God's providence in time, and his existence outside of time, and if you believe that this is something he has revealed about himself, it provides you with that unshakable foundation to face the most difficult things in life. Real biblical theology, not speculative theology, not drawing from the wisdom of the world, but biblical theology that we can actually take straight from the text. And I'm sad to tell you this, but there are very, very, very few schools left in our world that really believe that something like the book of Isaiah is anything more than just ancient poetic literature from people who didn't know nearly what we know today. So sadly, the vast majority of people going to what call themselves schools of theology all around the world, very few of them would look at a text like this and even give a second thought as to what these words should mean to us today. I know that may surprise some of you, but it's a sad reality. People who believe that this as a whole is the revelation from God, and that this is enough, and that we can dig this deeply into it. And it's not just a surface level consistency, but it's a consistency from Genesis to Revelation at a deep, deep level. People who believe that are the small minority today in what calls itself Christianity. That explains why mainstream denominations can do the things that they do. They don't have a clear word from God, so they have to fill in the gaps, and they frequently fill it in with priestesses in rainbow-colored stoles. But I said there are two aspects to the verse. Tell us what's going to happen in the future, which assumes God's sovereignty over time. That God has a decree, that he has a purpose in having chosen the people of Israel. He's going to work those things out, not in the sense of, well, y'all have made a real mess of things, but I'll do the best to try to get some good to come out of it. That's not what he's talking about. He's the one who says, I'm the one who's from the beginning to the end. I am working out my purpose in these things. That's God's claim. That can never be man's claim. But I said there's two aspects. Tell us the future, but also tell us the things in the past. Now you might say, well, that's not too difficult to do, is it? I mean, you just need to be a historian. Well, anybody who is a historian knows that there is often great disagreement as to what took place in the past. And we're talking great disagreement as to what took place in the past 2 years ago, let alone 2,000 years ago or anything else. I don't know about you, but it's pretty freaky seeing the mainstream media today completely rewriting what happened in 2020. Oh, we didn't force anybody to take a vaccine. No. I mean, my memory's getting bad, but it's not quite that bad. It's scary. And so if we can do that stuff that happened 2 or 3 years ago, how easy is it to do it 100, 200? I mean, I'm really aficionado of World War II history, but you can buy books. For example, as my wife will explain to you, I know a lot about the Battle of Midway. But you can buy long, thick books on the Battle of Midway today, and they will take different perspectives as to exactly what happened, even only less than 100 years ago. So it's one thing to say, well, what happened? Well, we can get some broad outlines, but there's still going to be disagreement. But you know something? That's not all that the text says. Now, let me tell you something. You can go find some commentaries.